Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Rishi Harrynanan. This is TTT News. It's time for the headlines. Flights cancelled as Boeing grounds global fleet of 737 MAX jets. Transport Ministry consults with stakeholders on impact of overweight vehicles on the nation's roads. Elderly businessman is Tobago's third murder victim for 2019. And in sport, retooled Red Force outfit seeking win to end campaign on a high. The Boeing company is recommending the temporary suspension of operations of the entire global fleet of 371 737 MAX jets. Boeing says the decision is made out of an abundance of caution and in order to reassure the flying public of the aircraft's safety. In its statement, Boeing says, "We are doing everything we can to understand the cause of the accidents in partnership with the investigators, deploy safety enhancements, and help ensure this does not happen again." This announcement comes in the wake of the decision by several countries, including the US and Canada, to ground all flights of the 737 MAX 8 and 737 MAX 9 and planes associated with that line. Over the past 5 months, there have been 2 deadly crashes involving the MAX 8 aircraft. Well, the Trinidad and Tobago Civil Aviation Authority's Director General Francis Regis says the authority will support the prohibition of the planes. This after American Airlines stopped the Miami to Port of Spain route, since the planes that service that route are 737 MAX jets.
And they have issued a prohibition indicating that the aircraft shall not fly until further notice. Right, and the Civil Aviation Authority has no concerns with respect to this, and we look forward to a speedy resolution of the issues surrounding the operation of this aircraft.
A large percentage of commercial trucks traversing on Trinidad and Tobago's highways and byways are carrying twice their allowed weight, and the Ministry of Transport believes this is contributing to the deterioration of the nation's roads. The ministry hosted consultations with heavy truck owners and drivers today. Karen Cozier-Phillip reports.
At a stakeholder consultation on Wednesday, Transport Commissioner Basdir Gosain said recent checks conducted on the nation's highways found that 95% of all commercial trucks were overweight. Providing statistics, he said one truck allowed to carry a weight of 14,800 kilograms was overweight by 12,460 kilograms, while another truck with a licensed weight of 13,910 kilograms was overweight by 10,100 kilograms.
6,000, 7,000 kilograms is the load that these trucks are allowed to carry. So when we stop one of our vehicles on the road and ask them to take off the excess weight, we actually filling up the tray of another truck.
Mr. Gosain said the common cry from truck drivers when found overweight and ticketed is that there are no scales at the quarries. He gave pointers on signs to look for to tell if a truck is overweight.
Well, I want you all to tell your drivers, use the same yardstick we at licensing do. We look at the tires, how they're resting on the road with the weight. We look at the springs. We look at the way the weight is on the truck. We listen to the cry of the engine when they're pulling the load.
Last weekend, Minister of Works and Transport Rishi Harrynanan hinted that new legislation will be put in place to penalize truck drivers who go over the weight requirement for bridges and highway overpasses. He said, however, the stakeholder meeting was not about finding a way to penalize contractors, but rather about finding a way to preserve the road infrastructure across the country.
A lot of the roadways were not designed for the weight that some of the trucks were carrying. That brought us to the point where we brought in the Transport Board and the Commissioner of Transport and the legal team to find out, well, if the road was not designed for that, why in the first place we allow these trucks to come into the country?
The current maximum penalty for overweight trucks is $750. Karen Cozier-Phillip, TTT News.
The National Lotteries Control Board, the NLCB, is reporting challenges with their financial auditing and accounting. The NLCB told Parliament's Public Accounts Committee there are many backdated financial statements in addition to issues with debt collection and illegal gambling. Here's Sherilyn Lewis.
Financial Controller of National Lotteries Control Board Wendy Dwarka explained to the PAC the majority of the NLCB's expenditure goes towards gaming and prize monies.
Gaming operating costs, which represents about 98% of our total expenditure. How that is broken down, we have our prize money, which is about 80%. We have agents' commission that we pay to all our agents. That represents about 9% of the total. And our service provider fees, which would be the payments to IGT.
On the topic of gambling, the NLCB is facing a challenge as illegal gambling accounts for over $20 billion.
Right. Casinos have 2%. Right. We have the illegal playway, which is illegal way. They contribute 5%. The NLCB contributes 12%. The roulette machines, casino roulette machines contributes 14%. The casino slot machines contribute 29%. Horse racing contributes at the moment 0%. The bars with the roulette machines, they also contribute 28%.
Questioned as to why GTEC had such a long-standing contractual arrangement with NLCB, Ms. Dwarka said it's because of the quality of service they provide.
GTEC provides the platform, they provide the technology to run the games and the platform on which the games are run. And they also assist in our marketing, promotions, etc.
According to Ms. Dwarka, GTEC is paid $242 million per year for its services to NLCB. Sherilyn Lewis, TTT News.
Minority Leader Watson Duke is calling on the Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles to intervene in what he is describing as discrimination against Tobagonians. Holding a list of persons due for fire training, he said the names were changed.
It is believed his agenda is racist because he removed names like Charles, Balfour, London, prominent Tobago names, and replaced them with names of East Indian descent, Ramsaran, Rampasad, and Ali, saying that Tobagonians, when trained in Tobago, will not want to work in Trinidad. We asked him where did he get information from.
Well, he said a total of 24 Tobagonians were taken off the training list. Citing the need for Tobagonians to work in Tobago, he said they won't sit idly by and let this discrimination continue.
Come Friday, I am ensuring all of those officers, the 24 of them, they shave their hair, they have their red clothes, they have their white clothes and black, the tie, and all of us will be reporting up there in Argyle. And Kenny will know his old master be today. He has to lock me up because we are not taking this respect on our own soil.
Well, Tobago records its third homicide for 2019. Robbery is believed to have been the motive behind the killing of 85-year-old store owner Donald Parks. Reports are that Mr. Parks, an ex-police officer and the owner of a clothing store at Summerhill, was first robbed and then killed at around 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Dr. Faith B. Israel of the THA Minority Council, expressing concern over the number of murders, made an appeal for justice for Mr. Parks.
And we are asking each and every one of us to stand up, and this is an opportunity for us to start acting.
Right.
If you have any information, and this is a plea on my behalf, this is a plea on behalf of all of us who are feeling the pain of Mr. Parks' death. If you have any information that can lead to the arrest and the punishment of the person who did this heinous crime, we are asking you to please be a Tobagonian first. Please be a human being first and bring that information to the knowledge of the authorities.
Remember, you can also keep up to date with the latest stories on Facebook and Twitter at TTT Live Online. More news to come, stay with us.
Who cares?
Who cares?
Who really cares?
Who cares? I care, because I know that cancer is the leading cause of death worldwide. Over 7.6 million people die each year, and in 20 years that number is set to triple. You can do something about that. Get screened for early detection. It's a key to survival. I care because cancer doesn't.
Welcome back. We start with news of cricket. Banking on experience. That's the TNT Red Force outfit, which welcomed back some familiar faces for their West Indies Championship clash with Jamaica, starting on Thursday morning from 10 o'clock at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Tarouba. Skipper Dinesh Ramdin will be pleased with the return of the informed Lendl Simmers, who showed the way with the century and a couple of half-century in his 2 matches, which helped the team score in excess of 300 runs each time. Also returning to the team after recovering from injury is Barbados batsman Kyle Hope, who has been in really good domestic form in the competition in recent weeks. The third change is the return of pacer Shannon Gabriel, who played just 1 match so far this season with the national team and took 6 wickets. They replaced Dion Webster, Yannick Karaya and Marlon Richards as the Red Force tries to win against the Scorpions, who are just 9 points ahead of them on the table with 76.4 points. Martinez Holder scored a buzzer beater as Leaders Fire beat Defence Force 33-32 in the latest premier game in the All Sectors Netball League in Tacarigua. Ian Wason has the highlights of that game and the second matchup between Police and Police Youth Club.
Defence Force headed into the final 4 minutes with a 2-goal advantage, but Martinez Holder was on point for Fire, and here the score was 31-30, Fire on top. The match was basically a dress rehearsal for this Sunday's Steve Sargent final, where they will meet again. But Holder had a big miss here, failing to keep it simple when the score was 32 all and less than a minute to go. But Defence Force did not make use of it, and the ball came back to Holder with less than 5 seconds on the clock. A good pass from Onella Jack, Fire for the win to maintain a perfect record.
Our team today, we wasn't here. We wasn't playing as a team. We didn't get together, but we would on our next game.
In the other premiership game of the evening, Police Youth Club, behind a 29-goal effort from national shooter Tahira Hollingsworth, beat Police 42-32. Steve McSween scored 31 goals for Police, but support was lacking. Fabrice Fisher, with a new hairstyle, scored 6 goals. Here the score was 27-22. But Tahira was unstoppable. When Bubble scored, the score was 37-29. As Police Youth Club beat Police in a personal battle, but I'm not going to get into that. 42-32 the final score.
I think that Tahira possesses all the qualities there are to be a great leader. She obviously played with the senior team before, and I think that she accepted the challenge quite well, and she's here to perform.
As mentioned earlier, Fire remain on top, but with Police's win, they keep on Fire's tail, making their game on the 23rd of this month even more interesting. Action resumes on Thursday with a double eliminations in the Championships division. Ian Wason, TTT Sports.
The new hockey season got off to a bang for top clubs Malvern and Harvard Checkers, who won the men and women's tournaments respectively on opening day in Tacarigua. Ruskin Mark has more on the Harvard Checkers' slender 1-0 win over Magnolia and Malvern's 2-1 squeaker past Paragon.
In the women's final, Magnolia fired the first salvo but had it blocked by the Harvard Checkers defense. That allowed their offense to kick in rather quickly, and the girls in green were on the move going the other way, but the blast across the face of goal misses everyone. Still, Mags had a response, and they came close, but once again, the keeper was having none of it. But on the stroke of halftime, things changed when Christian Abreu found some space down the right side and from a tight angle fired off a rocket that flew in for 1-0 Harvard Checkers. Naturally, Mags launched themselves into all-out attack, seeking an equalizer in the second half. but try as they did, none was forthcoming, as they were thwarted at every turn. Occasionally, Harvard checkers threatened to add to their lead, but they too had difficulty breaking through again. In the end, it remained 1-0 to Harvard checkers as Mags came up short on the day. But there was no stopping the 2014 and 2015 champs, Harvard checkers, who took the women's title on the opening day. In the men's final, Malvern in white started on the front foot against Paragon and threatened to blow the game wide open from the outset. Paragon also came to play and watched this brilliant backhand effort saved by the Malvern custodian. But the Woodbrook Grammar boys in white were humming now and came close on a number of occasions with some stylish moves coming up just short time and again. They ended the half just the way it started, with the men in white pressing and coming close, but not close enough, as it remained goalless at the break. But shortly after the resumption, they would hit pay dirt with this neat finish, following a quick give and go, and voila, Christian Emmanuel taps in for the opener. They would make it too soon after, but in a more dramatic fashion when this acrobatic assist is followed by an equally impressive finish at the back post by Jesse Drayton for 2-0 to the Malvern Glamour boys. Paragon, though, would cut into that lead when Kyle Murray pulled one back off the penalty corner. But the final whistle came shortly after, handing Malvern a deserved victory 2-1, the final, as Malvern lifts the opening day title for the first time in over a decade. Ruskin Mark, TTT Sports.
Japan will consider allowing North Korean athletes into the country to compete in the 2020 Olympics, despite sanctions currently banning any from entering Japan, the Olympics minister said on Wednesday. North Korean athletes took part in the 2018 Pyongyang Winter Olympics held in neighboring South Korea, with the two neighboring nations fielding a unified team in women's ice hockey and one pair in North Korean figure skaters qualifying. North and South Korea have told the IOC they would like to march together in Tokyo and have also officially requested to enter joint teams in the qualifying process for 4 sports: women's basketball, women's hockey, the judo mixed team event, and some men's and women's rowing teams. Japan instituted a number of sanctions against North Korea following a series of nuclear and missile tests that include not allowing its citizens to enter. Ties are also strained as a result of Pyongyang's abductions of Japanese citizens to train them as spies some decades ago. For more to come, stay with us.
TTT News, delivering more news at more times to more people. TTT News, reporting on the people, events, and issues that affect your life. TTT News, online and fully interactive. TTT News, connect.
The weather is brought to you in part by the Water and Sewerage Authority. Water, use what you need.
The dry season does not mean no rainfall, it just means less rainfall than the wet season. But still, we're under the meteorological drought warning. We did experience a wet night, especially in those areas of northern Trinidad and in eastern areas of Trinidad as well. 23 millimeters to be precise, measured at Piarco, and that takes the total right now to 31 millimeters, which is near normal for the month of March. But bearing in mind that we've had very dry conditions through January and February, extremely low levels of rainfall for the first 2 months, and that also went back to December. So if we take a look back at our reservoir levels for February, you notice that Navet was at 71% and Hollis was at 69%. Now into March, we have a Navet down to 56% and Hollis hovering at 61%. So you can see here, the reservoir levels are dropping and we're not likely to see a recharge of those reservoirs until well into the wet season, if not possibly around September or October. Now, the cause of the recent rainfall was basically this upper levels winds here, the jet streams coming across. It caused some instability, brought us some showers as well, but also down towards the south there was a bit of cloudiness around the Guyanas, so they also saw a few showers, but overall most of that shower activity was around Trinidad and parts of Tobago. But the sunshine will prevail as we go through Thursday morning and afternoon. The ridge of high pressure builds once more. We lose a lot of that moisture and that jet stream which has moved towards the north and out of our area. So we could be seeing definitely a brighter weather after a few showers after midnight tonight. Look out for a lot more sunshine through Thursday morning and into the afternoon. Very little in terms of rainfall expected throughout midday and into the latter half of Thursday. So from Atoko coming down towards beach, maybe just that stray shower, but overall you'll notice a lot of that dry weather and stable weather beginning to build as you go through Thursday afternoon and then ending towards the evening. Now, what does this mean temperature-wise? Under a bit of cloudiness tonight, still keeping temperatures warm. 23 degrees Celsius in Trinidad, 24 in Tobago. 31 is expected in Trinidad on Thursday. And then on Friday, we're expecting across Tobago just the tail end of a few showers. But through Saturday and Sunday, a lot more sunshine to come. We return to the dry, stable, warm weather that we've been seeing over the last few months. And that will definitely be on the cards for the weekend. Now, heading offshore, looking at moderate east-southeasterly winds, 15 knots, still keeping short northeasterly swells going at 8 seconds. It may lengthen to 10 seconds through Friday, and a slight chop offshore, getting moderate further out in the Atlantic, maybe stretching to 2 meters through Thursday. And we continue to see most of the activity, especially out towards the Atlantic, with a few whitecaps expected there. Now, across the Eastern Caribbean, we've been looking at the mostly settled weather, just a bit of cloudiness towards the north. Up towards the Greater Antilles, it's still drying out quite nicely, especially around Cuba. Just remember, at this time of the year, in March, it's typically windy, but it's actually now warmer than usual across Havana, heading around 31 degrees Celsius, and out towards Kingston, another 31, partly cloudy skies expected there. Now, for the Leeward Islands, still a bit of cloudiness around the Virgin Islands out towards St. Kitts, so maybe a brief shower or two, but definitely down towards the Windward Islands, we're only keeping the showers around Barbados, up towards St. Lucia, maybe into St. Vincent as well. But for us, we should be seeing a lot more sunshine with fewer showers expected through Thursday and a warm 31 degrees Celsius. So that's your weather, and that's it from me.
The weather was brought to you in part by the Water and Sewage Authority. Water, use what you need.
The Port of Spain division is boasting a huge drop in serious crime over the just concluded Carnival period. During a post-Carnival media briefing, Acting Inspector Randall McQuirk said the police service also saw a drop nationally. Ian Waston has more.
While revelers were jumping and whining with their family on the savannah grass, they were doing it safely. At least according to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, who says only 12 serious crimes were reported throughout the country on the Carnival days. Only 4 of these in the Port of Spain division, where most of the Carnival activities took place.
This successful operation was made possible by several policing strategies being implemented for the festivities.
Inspector McGurk says this was due to an increase in mobile and foot patrols, as well as speed traps and breathalyzer tests. He agrees the use of the silent Falcon drones were also effective during Carnival.
The drone technology and the use of those type of assets were indeed very helpful and useful, and I want to mention will continue. It is an aspect of our policing strategies, of course, by the Air Support Division of the TTPS, and driven by our Commissioner, of course, that we will continue to use those technologies, and they were very, very helpful and will continue to be very helpful to us.
He adds, for the period January 1st to March 12th this year, there were 236 firearm seizures. That represents a 36% drop over the same period last year. Ian Wason, TTT News.
Private government-assisted secondary schools are performing in line with government's secondary schools. This is according to Chief Education Officer Harilal Sicharan. Ministry officials today appeared before a Public Administration and Appropriation Committee of Parliament to examine the oversight of state agencies and government funding to private secondary school institutions. Mr. Sicharan was asked about the performance of the private schools by PAAC member Wade Mark.
When we look at the overall performance for schools in Trinidad and Tobago and the performance of the private schools, they are on par. So that, in fact, and sometimes we have to be careful in terms of the data and how we interpret it, but in fact, the private schools, they only got an increase for this academic year, would have been producing more or less the same output as the other schools.
Mr. Mark asked if there were challenges in finding space for SCA students, but Mr. Sicharan explained that the major challenge was the funding for the private schools, which has not been revised since 2005.
And therefore, I think the schools themselves were experiencing difficulty in terms of managing and the education of the students in a effective manner, because the resource being supplied as the funding and what was required wasn't lining up, so that within the last year we would have addressed that.
Well, he was also asked about the dropout rate at the private schools, but Mr. Sitran said the numbers are difficult to determine in both government and government-assisted schools. More to come, stay with us.
Who says informative can be fun? Smile now every morning with Lisa, Rishi, and Carrie as they keep you in the know with what's trending on social media and bring you updates from the worlds of current affairs, sport, technology, and much more. Start your day right and be in the know with what's happening now. Now, shaping tomorrow today. Mondays to Fridays at 6 a.m. on TTT, Talk City 91.1 FM, and streaming live on Facebook at TTT Live Online.
Preparing prisoners for the trek back out to society. That's the task of Vision and Mission, which today launched the 2019 Preparation for Release program for prisoners. The chairman of Vision and Mission, Reynold Cooper, explained that this program, which being sponsored by the European Union, is one way to ensure that prisoners do not reoffend.
Research has shown that inmates who have gone through any one component of the graduated reduction in custody program phase, pre-release phase, and resettlement phase in the community do better on 1 to 5 year follow-ups after controls for prior rules are used.
Ambassador Ad Bizobrook said his organization chose this program in their quest for exercises which better the lives of prisoners.
The priorities of our strategy to promote human rights and democracy, which we have programmed for implementation in Trinidad and Tobago between 2016 and 2020, is improving prison conditions and respect for prisoners' rights.
The Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, was passionate in his plea to cooperate Trinidad and Tobago to get involved in the program, so prisoners have a better chance to return to society.
To the ministry and say it is unacceptable. We have to fix our remand facilities, and we're doing that because you deserve better. You are our citizens, and some of you may not be our citizens, but a country, one way of measuring a country is by its prison facilities.
The minister said he is committed to making the prison system in Trinidad and Tobago better. Well, here's a recap of tonight's top stories. Flights cancelled as Boeing grounds global fleet of 737 MAX jets. Transport Ministry consults with stakeholders on impact of overweight vehicles on the nation's roads. And that's a wrap on this evening's TTT News. On behalf of all of us.